kind of just threw a curveball,
Yeah, but look at the quarterbacks in that division, though. Because Tony Romo was out about whole last year. I mean, you got John Kitna, Donovan McNabb, and Eli. None of them are really superstars. I mean, Eli
McNabb anymore.
Yeah, not anymore.
Rex Grossman.
So you could argue that Michael Vick is the biggest star in that division as quarterback.
Right.
So, but I mean, 5 is still not that much. I mean, especially in these.
But yeah, since 2005, I did think that was kind of low. But then again, I mean, they really don't happen that much.
Yeah, they don't.
I mean, I would like to see. I kept looking online for a percentage of like all the calls during a football game. Couldn't find any like percentage on. I'm sure holdings up. Holdings.
Holdings one. Yeah.
Defensive pass interference. Those are always up there. But you never know the percentage on how many times roughing the passer is called.
You really don't. I think it's just. I think roughing the passer is just usually glaringly obvious because it's either A, warranted, or B, when you look at the replay, you sit there and you say, I mean, if you're a fan of the team that the defense just got screwed over on, you say, oh, come on,
Right.
Because sometimes it's terrible calls.
And I don't think the Eagles are in trouble either. Last week, I know we talked about it when he got the concussion. His status for this past game was still uncertain. He had to go through tests.
Yeah.
You know what? We both said, maybe be hesitant and maybe not play him. Give him a week off. I know it's your rival New York Giants, but it's only week 3.
Yeah.
Granted, now you're at a 1-2 start, and you're supposed to be like the all-in season.
Yeah, so now they kind of have to start winning.
So now they have to kind of start winning. It's like that lose-lose situation.
Yeah. And I think now, Michael Vick will play next. If it's a bruise, a bruised hand is not going to keep him out.
Yeah, Andy Reid said, their head coach said today that it all depends on how the swelling dwindles down and how just the pain and how he can handle the ball.
Yeah, I'm sure he'll play. All right, everybody, is it time to believe? Ryan Fitzpatrick and the new look, resilient win in the clutch Buffalo Bills are showing that they're for real after producing their second consecutive stunning comeback victory. This time against their AFC nemesis, the New England Patriots. After being down 21-0, which I think everyone thought was going to be shut out at that point, the Bills stormed back to defeat the Patriots 34-31 on a game-winning field goal by Buffalo's Ryan Lindell. Steve, will the AFC champion game go through Buffalo?
Very well might. Very Mel White.
Oh, he did one of those like little flip-flop the first.
Ryan Fitzpatrick, he's making himself look like Tom Brady out there. He played with Tom Brady, and he beat him.
Yeah.
I mean, just looking at his stats, Ryan Fitzpatrick completed 27 of 40 passes for 369 yards, 2 touchdown passes, and 2 interceptions. Now, granted, when you compare these stats, Brady did have more yardage and more TD passes, but I'll get to the key stat of the game. Tom Brady on the other side of the ball for New England completed 30 of 45 passes for 387 yards, about 20 yards more than Fitzpatrick, with 4 TDs, 2 more than Ryan Fitzpatrick. But the key stat here, 4 interceptions, one of which was returned for a touchdown to put the Bills ahead.
Yeah. That's what it always comes down to. I mean, I guess, there are certain circumstances where it doesn't happen. I think like the Pittsburgh-Indy game. Yeah. Indy got a lot of turnovers, but of course they all result in field goals. Yeah. But for the majority, if you win the turnover battle, you're pretty much going to win the game. Right. Because turnovers are huge momentum shifters, especially returns for touchdowns. I mean, that's a complete demoralizer. Right. I think the only worse thing than that is, I think, getting a kickoff return for a touchdown at the beginning of the game because you're like, oh, we didn't even start playing it. But yeah, turnovers, especially for touchdowns, are some of the worst things you could have happen to you as a team. Right. And I think the Patriots just, like you said, they turned the ball over too much. Right. Tom Brady didn't look, I don't know.
I think they're putting everything on Tom Brady. Granted, he is the best quarterback in the NFL. Don't get me wrong. I won't argue a single cent about that. I just think they're putting a little too much on his shoulders right now. Granted, he's thrown for over, 900 yards so far in the season. But, throwing the ball 45 times, the running back, Benjarvis Green-Ellis, they're close to number 1 running back. Yeah. He only had 5 carries for 16 yards.
Yeah, that's not going to get it done.
That's kind of like what we've been talking about Purdue running the ball, about Indianapolis Colts running the ball.
Yeah.
And you can run on this Buffalo Bills defense.
Oh, yeah.
Teams have proven it. But when you throw the ball 45 times, you're asking to get picked.
You are. I mean, because you become one-dimensional, and that's the worst thing to do in football.
Right. Then the team's only rushing for it. Granted, you can give Tom Brady all the time in the world, and he'll somehow find someone. But then there's times where it's just not his day. Yeah. And he's getting, throwing interceptions left and right.
Yeah, and lo and behold, this is what happens.
It's going to be interesting to see how they come back this week. Last January, the Packers and Bears played in the NFC Championship game where the Packers defeated the Bears to go on to win a Super Bowl. Yesterday, the oldest rivalry game in football took the stage again. The result was the same. The Packers defeated the Bears 27-17 to remain undefeated on the season. Mike, can the Packers repeat a championship season? And what is with our Bears?
The Packers are darn good. Especially with all the weapons they have on offense now, Jermichael Finley, they still have Greg Jennings, of course, Ryan Grant, of course, he wasn't as pivotal as Rodgers' receivers were in this game, but, they're just...
Grant had some big carries.
He did have some big carries,
there
but
was
I
that
think...
one series where he rushed the ball 3 times for 35 yards.
Yeah.
The Packers only got a field goal out of that, but...
Yeah,
go ahead.
But I just think that that's one of the things that makes them really scary, the fact that they can run and pass.
Right.
They're not one of those teams that have primarily passing game, primarily running game. They're scary good. Their defense, their defense has been iffy this year. They gave up, I think, 34 points to the Saints, and then against Carolina.
400 yards again to Cam Newton.
Yeah, their defense isn't great, but, their offense is good enough to keep them in any game.
Right.
So I think they definitely have what it takes to get back to the Super Bowl. I'm not saying they will, I don't know, but they definitely have the caliber. Now, the Bears, they're a different story. I think they need to find an identity on offense. Whatever Mike Martz wants to do, just don't stop, please, because you're not going to win the game literally throwing Jay Cutler back to pass every play, which is what he did against the Saints. Didn't work. What he did this week against the Packers didn't work. Right. 37 attempts. Now, mind you, Cutler's game wasn't terribly bad, and he probably should have had 8 more completions than what he did. He probably should have been 28 for 37, not 21. Because half the receivers couldn't hold on to the balls. Yeah. It was a joke.
Yeah.
Quite a few third downs that the Bears should have picked up, but of course receivers decided to drop them because you have
one Johnny Knox one for...
Oh my God, that would have been like 25 yards right through his hands.
Yeah, he heard footsteps and just turned his head, didn't rush the ball, into his arms.
Yeah, and you know what upsets me the most about this team, and we were listening to the radio before we went on the show here. Yeah. All these fans and analysts alike, want to blame Jay Cutler for everything. It is not his fault at all. When you have a line that probably can't block college teams, I bet you if our line tried to block Alabama's D line, we'd get rocked. You want to bet? I really would believe that we would. And then you got receivers who aren't number 2 receivers on probably 25 of the teams in this league.
True.
So you got a bunch of number 3 receivers and no line. You trade for an all-star Pro Bowl quarterback, and then you give him next to nothing. What is he supposed to do? I'm actually impressed Jay Cutler's stats are as good as they were.
Yeah.
Last year he had phenomenal stats for a guy who got sacked 52 times.
Right.
And this year his stats aren't that bad. I think the Bears need to start running the ball, and someone's got to take responsibility for the fact that nobody on this offense but Cutler's doing a thing.
Right.
I don't know.
The one key stat that I saw looking back at the box score after the game, 12 rushing attempts for the Bears. Guess how many yards? Yeah,
I know.
Guess how
13.
many yards? 13.
Yeah. That's a professional
Please
offense.
Explain that.
Well, you can, except for the fact that our line can't block and we don't run the ball enough.
They tricked us week 1 when they manhandled Atlanta.
Yeah.
Even though Atlanta's 1-3, right?
Mind you, they're 1-2. But yeah, and we thought that, here we go. The Bears just beat an elite team in the NFC. They're going to be amazing this year. And then shows you how much things can change in 1 week, right, Steve, in the NFL?
And another key stat that I looked up, Lovie Smith, who from day 1, I don't know if you remember when he got hired.
Beat the Packers.
He's 8-8 versus the Packers.
Yeah.
8-8. Is that good enough? Is that beating the Packers?
No, that's playing even with the Packers, I guess.
That's playing even with the Packers.
Yeah. I don't know.
It's going to be a long year if this continues, but I really hope it's not. And, Packers, they're healthy. They're at a...
They're healthy and scary. Their offense is scary.
It was a sloppy game. Don't get me wrong on both sides. It wasn't sloppy. It wasn't a crisp game.
Yeah. Well, I think the one positive of what we came out, even though the Packers scored 27 points, the Bears defense looked great. The Bears offense didn't get. The Bears defense was starting at the Packers had the ball at the 50 about every possession,
right. And that hurts your defense.
Yeah. So the fact that the Bears held them to only 27 points, I think, was a positive. The defense is still good. I think the offense just needs to get some kind of identity. Run the ball.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, starting at a 20-0 deficit as they trudged into the Metrodome locker room at halftime, the old Detroit Lions would have started making plans to leave Minnesota with another loss. However, the Lions were able to outscore the Vikings 23-3 in the second half to make the game go into overtime, where the Lions were able to make a game-winning field goal to start the season off 3-0, the first time since 1980. So, Steve, are the Lions a threat to win the NFC North Division, and what do the Vikings do here after an 0-3 start?
For the Lions, I had them up there in the NFC.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. If Matthew Stafford stays healthy, last year might have been a different story.
Oh, it probably would have been. Yeah.
Might have been a different story. If they stay healthy on both sides of the ball,
they can be a good team.
Is a darn good team. I mean, right now on the season, Matthew Stafford has completed 79 of 118 passes for 977 yards and 9 touchdown passes. His number one gun, his number one threat, the person he always goes to, wide receiver Calvin Johnson. 16 receptions thus far in the season for 225 yards, 6 touchdown passes.
Yeah.
Catches.
And they got a pretty decent running back in Javid Best.
And, yeah.
So, I mean, they're a very talented offense.
I mean, if teams want to beat this beat these Lions, they have to stop Calvin Johnson. Because, like I said, Matt Stafford has 9 touchdown passes. Calvin Johnson has 6 of those.
Yeah.
Catches.
Yeah.
And defensive side, though, they're just a run-stuffing defense waiting to get to their prime.
Yeah.
They have Ndamukong Suh. They have their first-round draft pick in Nick Fairley out of Auburn.
Yeah.
They're just waiting to hit their prime, hit that next gear. And this team is going to be darn good.
Oh, yeah. I'm scared for the Bears play them in 2 weeks. I think we're going to get negative yards running.
Where's it at? Chicago or Detroit?
I have to look at the schedule. I know it's a Monday night game. I hope it's in Chicago. Probably Detroit, though, because I think the Carolina games in Chicago, usually you don't get 3 home games in a row. You might, but...
Double check that. We'll double check that.
Yeah, we'll double check that. But that's scary.
Vikings, I don't know where to begin. You know what? To me, I said it after they lost. I actually watched the end of that game. Vikings should just pick up and go to Los Angeles. Just start the new, just start a new organization, start a new franchise out there.
Now you're going to get Minnesota fans all upset now. Well, they're upset enough, I think.
They're upset enough to believe me. And I think they got to start Christian Ponder from Florida State last year,
They really might have. It's kind of sad to see how Donovan McNabb is.
How his career is.
How his career is just falling apart. I mean, he was so good in Philly for so many years, and just to watch him last year, people were hoping it was a fluke in Washington, proving out it's not.
Right.
I don't know what happened to Donovan, but,
Yeah, right now they're in the front running for Andrew Luck, but they wasted a first-round pick on Christian Ponder.
Christian Ponder, I mean, what do? Do you draft 2 quarterbacks back-to-back? I don't know.
It's going to be interesting. Any final thoughts? I know Indianapolis Colts owner Jim Irsay just came out Monday morning saying that the team doesn't expect Peyton Manning back until the 2012 season. They're actually more, as news came out, more sources came out. They're expecting him back December, but they don't know if he's going to be game action.
Yeah, I don't think that's smart. It depends on where the team is, but
I think so. It's all going to depend on where the team is at.
But I mean, being 0-3 from what they look like so far, they really don't look like they're going to be anywhere near contention. So just sit them out for the year, let them get healthy.
Who starts Monday night for the Colts? Curtis Painter came in. Kerry Collins had suffered a concussion. We don't know his status. I think you got to go with Purdue quarterback, Curtis Painter.
I mean, Painter had some. He had that should have been touchdown pass to Pierre Garçon. I think was at the third quarter.
Yeah, no, fourth quarter.
It was the fourth. Yeah, I mean he was. Oh my God, Garçon had a great move, and then Painter overthrew him, and then what was that fumble for a touchdown?
Yeah,
but I mean, I'd go with the young guy. I'd give Painter more than one shot. I'd make sure he played.
All right, real quick, NFL picks. Mike, last week you were 3-2. We both were 3-2.
Yeah.
Overall, we're both 9-5, so we're real close in our picks thus far after week 3. Real quick, week 4 picks. First game, Carolina at Chicago. Real quick.